Hi everyone, Alexandra Jowett, Jupiter Returns, here with your weekly astrology forecast for the week of the 7th to the 13th of September 2020. I hope you're all well. We've had a potent full moon last week. I'm sure many of you felt the influence of that lunation. And then over the weekend, we've had Mars being activated by the moon as she passed by. Mars really becoming more and more influential at this point in time, and we've seen the results of this with an increase, unfortunately, in anger, in aggressive, violent behaviors, stabbings and shootings and fires and all this kind of thing. So it's going to be more of a feature as we move forward, I'm afraid to say. But on the positive side, Venus overnight has moved into the sign of Leo. Venus is a benefic planet. She wants to bring peace and love and harmony and pleasure. As she's now moved into a fire sign, the sign of Leo, there is an increasing desire for fun and pleasure and more interaction with other people. Having a feeling of glamour as well is something that Venus in Leo likes. Getting dressed up and doing something really, really special and fabulous and feeling special, feeling really kind of, you know, like I'm something really spectacular and something to be celebrated, these kinds of feelings. So we can really enjoy that vibration as long as we don't take it too seriously. But also with Venus being in a fire sign, as she progresses through the sign of Leo over the next few weeks, this is going to help to offset some of the potential downsides of what we're going to be experiencing with Mars moving into retrograde this week, which I'll come on to talk a little bit more about. Because that's a fire sign, there's a trine, a natural trine between the signs that occupy the same element. And so this means that with her, as she progresses through, it's going to soften things just a little bit. So if we can get kind of familiar with the Venus in Leo vibe, if we can tap into that a little bit more, then that could help soften the situation. So where we find ourselves today then, Monday the 7th, we have the moon in a Venus-ruled sign also. Venus ruled Taurus, to be precise. The moon likes being in Taurus. It's a feminine sign, a Venus-ruled sign, so she's comfortable there. But also with it being an earth sign, there's a kind of a vibration of groundedness to the emotions. The emotions could have been very, very hot and fiery and rash and impulsive in Aries. And once we get into Taurus, whew, okay, let's just cool things down a bit. If you imagine, you know, one of the ways that we can put a fire out is actually by putting earth on top of it or sand. And so this is kind of that kind of energy of just calming some of that heat down a little bit, and keeping our emotions a little bit more calm and stable. So that's very welcome. And in fact, as she moves through Taurus this afternoon and into this evening, she's going to be really tapping us in, helping us to connect with some more earth energies. So what we've got going on is she's reaching out to, like I said before, the same elements, so in this case earth, they always make a natural trine to each other, supportive energy. They harmoniously get on with each other, all right? So what we've got this afternoon and going into this evening, is we have these earth connections being made, forming a grand trine. So this is where we've got 3 trines all connecting up, which is really, really lovely energy. This is energy that doesn't need any effort from you. You know, connect into it. You know, you can help yourself to kind of merge with that energy, but these energies are just going to flow unhindered between each other, talk to each other. So what we have is we have the moon moving into a trine with the sun, who's over there in Virgo. All right, the earth sign of Virgo. And the sun is currently at this point on Monday applying to the trine over to Jupiter, which will perfect later in the week, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. So this moment, just as the moon is moving through Taurus this evening, this is a time when we might feel that in a very literal or physical or tangible way. So this is the moon, the sun, and Jupiter. So expansion, opportunity, luck. And our sun, well, this is, you know, our core radiance, our essence, how we shine out our light out into the world. And the moon, how we're feeling, and also how people are receiving us. You know, this is harmoniously because we've got the moon receiving the light of the sun. So how are people, how is our public receiving us in a way? And also matters of family and home, and just generally our sense of how we're feeling at this point in time. So really lovely energy to get us started off into the week. So we're going to be working with this over the next couple of days. I would recommend you work with this over the next couple of days, because as the trine, as the moon moves on, we're really focusing in on just the trine aspect between the sun and Jupiter. All right, so this is going to perfect on Wednesday. So between now and Wednesday, this is where I think that we should all be focusing our attention, focusing, you know, on our self-work. The sun and Jupiter over there in Capricorn, this really is about recognition. This is about our status. Where am I being recognized? What are the opportunities for me to be recognized, to be acknowledged, or potentially to see where there's opportunities for me to kind of move up a level, you know, in the hierarchy. Capricorn, perhaps a promotion or a new job opportunity, or something that at least is going to help us to gain a sense of status in our life or increase our material success in some way. With the sun down here in Virgo, Virgo ruling our day-to-day work life and the workplace itself. So there's a lot of kind of receptivity between these energies. The sun and Jupiter can bring us a sense of joy, a sense of real optimism, of happiness, of abundance, all of these things, and our reputation, you know, an increase, a positive influence on our reputation at this time. Where Jupiter is moving through your chart, so find Capricorn in your chart. This is the house. I use whole sign astrology, so one sign, one whole sign equals one whole house. Where Capricorn occupies in your chart, this is the house where Jupiter has been transiting since late November, I think, last year, 2019. Currently in retrograde, but that's changing also this week, so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But Jupiter in the chart, where it's transiting, this is where we are being asked to be the students of life. In particular, at that time, you know, Jupiter understands that you can do as much book learning as you'd like, you know, you can do tons and tons of book learning, but until you've actually had the lived experience, until you've put all of that data actually out there into the world there and had the experience of how it interacts with the process of life, you know, that's where the real maturity and wisdom comes from. We don't get wise reading books, we get knowledgeable reading books, and that's very, very different, okay? So Jupiter is saying, where have we been students of life since last November? Jupiter is also about gratitude, okay? So where are we grateful for ourselves? And with Venus in Leo at this time as well. This is a nice moment, I think, to connect with where we feel proud of ourselves. What have you done that makes you feel proud over the since November last year, when Jupiter moved into this area of your life? What have you achieved there where you feel you've acted wisely? Where you feel like you've acted more in alignment with the higher self than the egoic self? Where have you perhaps found opportunity through challenges? This has been a big theme of 2020. We've all had huge challenges. Everyone in the world has had the huge challenges of the crisis that we're moving through. But Jupiter's presence there all the time has said, there is an opportunity within this. There is a blessing. There is a silver lining. So have we been able to align with that? Have we been able to understand things in a more grounded way, in a more practical way? Have our beliefs been shaped and changed just a little differently to make them perhaps more practical and realistic? And have we acted in a way with other people? This is a social planet. That's from a place of integrity. You know, I'm proud of myself because I could have done this, but I chose, you know, I made a conscious decision to do this instead because I want to be a better person. I want to be a wiser person. So Capricorn's all about integrity. And it understands that there are long-term repercussions for what we do today. We drop a pebble in the pool today, you know, there's waves that continue out for a very long time. So these are the things to just tap into, have some consideration in your own life and your own chart. Have I been someone, have I acted, you know, in a way that makes me proud? Also, it's a moment to give gratitude to yourself. You know, we often consider pride of ourselves or feeling good about ourselves based on what we do for other people, but what about what we do for ourselves? You know, this is really important because we can't give to other people unless we're looking after ourselves properly. So this is about gratitude for the self and your relationship with yourself, how you have demonstrated in practical ways, okay, where you have physically not just thought the, you know, not just had the thoughts, not just talk the talk, but where you've actually demonstrated to yourself that who you are is someone that you are proud of and that you are grateful to be. It's also a really great time with Virgo being the sign of our health and our healing and our daily structures. It can be an opportunity to be grateful to our physical bodies, and certainly today, this earlier part of this connection with the moon back in Taurus, literally giving gratitude, pouring gratitude into the physical body, all the things this body allows me to do, to experience, how it allows me to take what goes on in my mind and then have an experience with it in the outer world, Jupiter. So these are all the things that it would be really helpful, I think, if we tap into that right now. So, so yeah, that's perfecting on Wednesday. Now, as we move into Thursday the 10th, there's a background energy this week, which is all about Mars. We've been feeling it building for a little while now, and we do now get to kind of, you know, the point at which these feelings of Martian energy can become quite extreme now. So overnight on Thursday the 10th, or into Thursday the 10th, Mars is actually going to station retrograde. So This has been building for some time, and throughout this week, yes, we may be feeling the influence of it more. That's why I've tried to get us to focus on some of this earth energy, this grounding energy, you know, the wisdom energy, because, you know, all of the planets go retrograde more often than others. Mars is very rare. Mars only goes retrograde every 2 years. Now compare that with the likes of Mercury. Mercury goes retrograde 3, sometimes 4 times a year. So that's way more common. Mars retrogrades very, very rare indeed. So when we add that to the fact that Mars is the planet that least likes going retrograde, that's least comfortable with going retrograde, because he's all about moving forward. He's all about making things happen. It's action. It's like, I want something to happen and I want it to happen now. So obviously the pulling back of that energy, the retrograde motion, rewinding Mars back in, like trying to reel him back in, oh, doesn't like it at all, not happy. So there's a build up of Mars passion, okay? And in his home sign of Aries, even more strong, okay? So planets that you have towards the end of Aries, they're the ones that are going to be affected the most, and angles as well. If you have, for example, your ascendant in Aries, you're really, really going to be feeling this energy a lot. Any instances over the last few weeks that have arisen that have been somewhat challenging, where you've come up against some argument, disagreement, or perhaps a challenge, or like some kind of competition. If someone's tried to be in competition with you, or there has been a situation which has created a sense of competition, some area of life where you've really wanted to move forward, and it's now going to stop feeling held back. It's trying to get us to go over that area of ground again, and it needs reworking. There's something back there that needs resolving. So this is not a good time at all to be thinking of initiating or starting some, you know, some big new thing in your life, okay? Because it's very, very likely to hit delays. Mars going in retrograde is rewinding progress. It's pulling progress backwards. So this is not a time to be, you know, setting out on a mission to really make something happen in the area of your life where this is aspecting. In addition to that, this is an even more potent Mars retrograde because of the aspects Mars is going to be making to Saturn. I've talked about this in more depth in my Mars retrograde in Aries video, so do check that out on my channel as well for deeper information. This is an aspect that's going to perfect in a couple of weeks' time, so I'll talk to you about it then. But again, Saturn has a hindering quality to it. It's a quality that wants to slow things down and create resistance to things. So this, again, it's going to kind of build up frustration. It's kind of like when someone gets in the car and they're revving and the wheels are spinning, but they're not it's not getting traction. They're not moving forward. So all that happens is, well, lots of smoke and a bad smell. Essentially, that's what's going to show up in your life. Like a big wheel spin, you know, you're not going to be able to move forward. It's all just going to get very heated and messy and ugly and smelly. So, you know, keeping things in check, keeping your temper in check, walking away from very flared up tempers that are likely going to be around. It's an energy, particularly with around the station, where we can be a little bit accident prone if we're rushing. Okay, so watch the speed in your cars, all right? Pay attention on the roads, no using the phone and all of these things, which you shouldn't do anyway, you know. But in particular, just be a little bit more careful, be a little bit more cautious. Channel some of Saturn's energy through into just being mature and sensible. And if we're channeling Saturn energy in that way, it's not going to show up too much as pushing back against your push forward kind of thing. So be careful, slow down, be calm, do your breathing, get grounded. This energy is going to be around, Mars is going to be in retrograde now till the middle of November. So this is a long process. So, you know, we really need to learn to pace ourselves, expect delays, okay? Just get your expectations in check. That's the best thing that you can do. In whatever area of life this is taking place, in areas in your chart, whatever planets is aspecting, just expect delays and prepare for that. And just ask yourself, how am I going to deal with that? Do I have some strategies? Again, Saturn, strategies. Give yourself, you know, some things that you can immediately go to that you know are going to help diffuse your frustration, you know, all this pent up annoyance, okay? So we don't take it out on other people. That's the idea. There are situations where this could be a little bit more helpful, or it's going to push us to resolve something in our life, because we don't always want to do what we need to do as human beings. And sometimes the astrology has to get a bit tough just to give us a shove in the right direction. So this could push us to take action where we've just been tolerating something for too long, and it gets to the point where it's like, no, I really have to do something about this now. You know, it can't be tolerated anymore, but not in a rash and hasty kind of impulsive way, okay? You might feel like you want to do that, but just try and control that, temper it somewhat, and see if it's just some energy you can harness to push into an area of life where you've really felt that you needed to make some changes, but you haven't really felt motivated to do that, or things have been, it's been easier, less challenging just to maintain the status quo. Well, now you're going to feel like, no, I don't want to maintain the status quo anymore. I want something. I can't tolerate the situation anymore. So there is the potential that, you know, in a very, very self-aware person, this could be quite helpful potentially. And as I say, a return to something challenging and, you know, provoking. Don't be getting into competition with anyone at this time. It's not likely to go in your favor. So this is no ego battles with anyone. You know, catch yourself doing that, because it will backfire. I can guarantee it. If there is something that you have a long-term goal, something that you've been planning, that you've put a lot of thought and preparation and wisdom into for some time, that connects up with this, then yes, there could be delays. Stick with it, expect that it will be delayed, but in the end it will come good when Mars turns direct again and starts moving forward at the end of the year. But as I say, this is a long, drawn-out process, so just expect that. As we move into Friday the 11th, then, the Sun will have moved forward in Virgo, coming into an exact opposition with Neptune, okay? So activating the polarity of these two very starkly different signs. Now, I think I've demonstrated through the week so far, we've got some really, really positive, helpful, supportive energy on the one hand, with the connection from the Sun to Jupiter, bringing luck and abundance and gratitude, but then this difficulty with the Mars retrograde. Very, very different contrasting energies. And this aspect itself on Friday, the Sun opposing Neptune, can bring up feelings of confusion. It can also be deception. to some extent, whereas our view on things is deceiving us. We can deceive ourselves, or we can be deceived by others. I think the best way, I mean, the one thing to remember is, this is, the sun moves 1 degree every day. So whilst this is showing up, it's, it's going to be like 2 or 3 days tops energy. So if you're feeling that sense of, I don't know what to do, lots of confusion, don't worry too much, because it is going to be quite fleeting, whereas some of these other energies obviously going to be much more longer term. And I would certainly strongly recommend connecting with the Sun Jupiter trine, and just with Jupiter in general, in actual fact. But this is really giving us the opportunity, any potential confusion that's arising here, illusion, delusion, any kind of warping of how we see things. It's really giving us the opportunity to consider where we are at on our journey with finding the balance between Virgo and Pisces energy in our life. So this is kind of like with Pisces, it's all about the trust. I just have faith. I have trust in the process of life, and I just go with the flow. I'm a spiritual being. Wonderful. Virgo is kind of like, hang on, no, you have to go to work, and you're actually an organic body that needs looking after, and there's, you can't just drift. This is practical. It's the hard, real reality of the fact that we may be spiritual beings, but we're in a physical incarnation, and living in a 3D world, and the reality of that world is something that is shared. Pisces is shared with all of the rest of humanity. So we need to consider, have I got the balance right between these two influences in my life? Do I need my life to be incredibly structured, controlled, very, realistic, to the point where I close myself off to the magic of life, to the, the higher realm, and to my soul, to myself as a soul, a being that goes on beyond this lifetime? Have we gone too far into the Virgo stuff? And conversely, do I check out of reality through Pisces and Neptune energy? Is the real 3D world and my human incarnation too much for me to bear, to the point where I just, check out? I use drink, I use drugs, I have a spiritual life that isn't particularly, realistic. So where are we on that scale? All right. And interactions with others, with this being an opposition, interactions with other people could highlight where perhaps we need to just do a little bit of rebalancing, or at least just give it some consideration. Just giving that part of ourselves a little bit of awareness, and saying, okay, let me just observe this for a couple of days in myself. Pisces can be very naive and trusting, sometimes where it possibly didn't ought to. It can see the best, it can see the highest. It can recognize qualities within a person that perhaps they're not even aware of themselves, or embodying in terms of the way that they conduct themselves in life. And that we can come a cropper through that naivety. But equally, on the other hand, if we're so kind of secure and boundaried and barriered off and mistrusting of the world, where we see, that everyone's going to take advantage of us and everything, is going to go wrong, then yeah, like I say, we can cut ourselves off from a lot of the magic of life. So some important work, I think, on Friday. Just notice if that comes up. Virgo can be quite rigid, it's an earth sign, so there's rigidity, and we want to bring in the fluidity of Pisces. These two blend together, earth and water blend together to make something pliable, you know, throwing a pot on the potter's wheel. That's a very, very perfect illustration of when we bring earth and water together, what we can make, what we can shape, right? As we move into the weekend, then we get back into the Jupiter energy. Great, great news. I'm really, really happy this is happening in a week where we've got the tension of Mars retrograde. We have Jupiter turning direct. All right, this is happening overnight on Saturday. So all through the weekend, Jupiter's presence is going to be very powerful as well. So we've got Mars's energy is going to be very strong, but Jupiter also. This is where there's been situations with a Jupiter retrograde. What is happening is, I referred earlier to where Jupiter is transiting in your chart being where you're asked to be a student of life. Okay, in this particular year. It's around about a year that Jupiter spends in each sign. When Jupiter is in the retrograde motion, what's happening is, and it's a good long few months, what's happening is you've had some experience of life in that sign for a while, and then Jupiter says, right, come back into the inner world with this experience, and let's turn that into true wisdom. All right. So the opportunities and growth that Jupiter can bring, that's what he's all about, tend to not happen so much in the outer world, because his influence is more within. Okay. So when Jupiter moves direct, this is when the wisdom that we've been working on within ourselves, this can start to now show up in the outer world. And again, this is, you know, that trine aspect down to the sun. It's only a couple of degrees away, so it's still very much active as Jupiter stations. So really, really, really helpful and supportive. So yeah, this is the opportunities for more recognition, for more status, for more material growth. This is Capricorn. Where we felt like there haven't been those opportunities in the outer world, they can now show up. Things start to fall back into place in terms of where we want expansion and where we want opportunity in our life. And it's the opportunity for us to now express ourselves, particularly with the connection to the sun down there, an opportunity for us to express ourselves from that point of gained wisdom from the experiences that we've had. And my goodness, have we had some experiences this year. You know, just the lockdown period itself. I speak to so many people throughout my working life and in my personal life as well. And I've asked many, many people how they've experienced 2020. And so many people have said lockdown, for me personally, was actually really great. It was this time of being able to experience parts of my life in a much bigger way that I just would never have had, potentially, had this crisis never come along. You know, the opportunity to work from home, slow down, stop the daily commute, you know, the cleaning up of the atmosphere as there's been less traffic around, less pollution, more time with the family, connecting with children, being able to take on board that teacher role, which is a Jupiter thing, and connecting with their family and really having some profound insight into the education process through this direct personal lived experience. So yes, it's been very difficult and very challenging, but pretty much everyone I talk to, or certainly the majority for me, have said there's been some real gains in this. So now when Jupiter turns direct, how do we take that and make it influence the outer world, you know, the Capricorn system, as people are now starting to go back into the workplace, children are starting to go back into education. are we going to change the way those things work in view of, in light of the lived experience and wisdom that we've all gained? There are different ways of doing things. Now, this Jupiter direct as well for me is really, really exciting, because Jupiter is moving towards, at this point, a conjunction with Saturn. That's going to take place on the winter solstice, 21st of December this year. This is like the new moon of Jupiter and Saturn, okay? So it's them coming together and starting a brand new cycle. And I'm going to be putting together a video that's going to really explore that in depth, because this starts a 20-year new cycle for all of us. So the period between now and then, with Jupiter moving direct, is the last moments of bringing the current cycle to a close. Okay, it's like the balsamic phase of the moon cycle, wrapping things up, bringing things to a close. What have we learned? So also, I think it would be a good idea to give some consideration to that. The current cycle between Saturn and Jupiter actually started down in Taurus. It was Taurus, 22 degrees of Taurus. All right, fellow Earth sign. So a nice trine. That was on in May 2020. Sorry, that's now in the year 2000. Sorry, it's all twos and zeros. So May 2000, you know, we just set our first kind of footsteps into the new millennium, and there was all that excitement. That was the start of this cycle. This cycle is now coming to a close. These are the final moments of that cycle. So consider what wisdom you've gained from that cycle as well as that draws to a close. That's really astonishing. I can tell you, I've looked back on my own life where that last conjunction was taking place. On my descendant is actually in Taurus. This was taking place, and I was just about to get married. And yeah, this cycle coming to a close now. See how you've grown, how the lived experience in that area of your chart has really made you a wiser, more mature person. And what you need to now wrap up as we move towards this exciting moment of starting a whole new cycle of these planets. So that's really great energy for the weekend. Also, some more supportive energy, I'm pleased to say, because we're going to have Venus, as she's moved a little way through Leo by this point, she's going to be making a harmonious trine aspect over to Chiron in fellow fire sign Aries. So with this, I would suggest, you know, try and create something whereby you can maybe get together with some girlfriends, you know, this is Venus energy after all, and do something fun and creative with them. Something that allows you to be uninhibited, okay? Give a creative expression of yourself in an uninhibited way. Ecstatic dance, or painting, or, you know, like body painting, or just something that's really, really kind of fabulous, you know, dressing up, putting on a performance, anything like this that's about fun, but it's about tapping into the uninhibited sense of fun and play that we had as children, where we didn't really care what anyone thought if they were looking at us. You know, it was just like that innocence, that innocence. I'm just in the pleasure and the joy of this moment for no reason, okay, just for the sheer joy of it. This is reaching out to Chiron. It's going to be super healing if you can do this, if you can just let the inhibitions drop. Trust that it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be innocent. It's okay to express yourself. And you might just find that that's an incredibly healing experience. So get together with the girls, plan something nice. Yeah, along those lines, I think that could be really helpful. Yeah, I think, yes, and we're going to have now, okay, things get a little bit more sober now, I'm afraid. Throughout the whole of the weekend, we're going to have the moon in Cancer. So she's in her home sign, so strongly placed, considerably more emotional. And of course, every time the moon moves through Cancer now, she's going to be moving into opposition with the planets in Capricorn, Saturn and Pluto. And where Mars is building into the square with Saturn, the moon therefore is going to also connect to Mars. So this, particularly on Sunday, when the moon is a little bit further through Cancer, this could be one of those moments really where the Mars retrograde energy really peaks yet again, where we could see more violent action, we could see more protests turning nasty, more fires, more shootings, more stabbings. Unfortunately, these are all very Mars things, aggression, all of these things. So do look out for that. Be aware that that's happening. Do your best to not get caught up in it. I hope I've showed you that there are other things playing out in the chart that we can aim to align with. And that doesn't mean suppressing. If this is what you're feeling, don't suppress it, but just find a healthier outlet for it. Just be aware that this is an influence that's coming from outside of you. It's coming from the planets. It's moving through you. This isn't who you are. It's something that's influencing you. It's temporary. And you ultimately have free will. Okay, Mars is really about free will. This is saying, you know, I don't have to allow my emotions, my feelings to get the better of me and make a victim of me. Okay, I can master them, Saturn. I can be the master. Now that's going to create some pent-up tension, you know, within you. Find some way of diffusing it, particularly if it's physical exercise. That's a really great way to process Mars energy. It's a big week, isn't it? Thanks so much if you've made it to the end. I know my videos can be quite long, but I can't in all justice to my passion for astrology gloss over things. And I hope that you appreciate that and find a way of using this, perhaps breaking it down into smaller chunks where it can be more easily digested. Do leave me a like, a love, a share if these videos are supportive to you on your journey. That really helps me. Certainly with this Jupiter-Sun combination here, it helps me to reach other people. It helps me to get a position of more recognition, and therefore astrology gets more recognition and it can reach more people. So I'd really value your support. Subscribe to my channel, and as always, I will be back again next Monday, and we'll look at the astrology as we move into the, it'll be the Virgo new moon. So until then, have a beautiful week. Lots of love. Goodbye.